Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? We are so glad, my guest Gayle Brown and we are thrilled that you are here today. I am your host, Karen E. Osborne, in case you didn't know that, and True Grace, my first historical novel with its beautiful cover. Isn't that gorgeous? It came out in September. Gayle, publication day. Hey, Gayle.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so delighted to have you, especially on your publication day. I think that is the coolest thing. So let me just tell you a little bit about Gayle. I'll tell you more about her book because it's called A Deadly Game. And listen to what one reviewer wrote. It's a fast-paced, action-packed, I love it already, thriller raising the question, how far is a mother willing to go to protect her child? And the constant guessing and unexpected riveting twists will keep you turning the pages. Another reviewer wrote, an amazing domestic thriller. So this is so good, so good. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming. So let me ask you, Gayle, first, uh, how are you feeling? I mean, this is like a big day.
It is a big day. It feels very surreal, to be honest. You know, you work on your dream for so long, and it's a long path to get here. And then to see it, the book on a shelf and feel it, and it just it's very surreal. I think I've used the word surreal about 1,000 times in the past 6 months, like just each step along the way. This is so surreal. This is so surreal. It's just, and it's an incredible, incredible feeling. Relief too, that all your hard work does pay off.
Yeah, it's something that you've worked on so long. So I was going to ask you this kind of later in our conversation, but how long did it take? People are always asking me. They say, "Oh, how long does it take to, to write a book?" I even had a little class of 11-year-old, and they said, "Well, how long?" And I said, "Well, how long do you think?" And one of them said, 2 weeks.
Not exactly.
Not exactly. So tell us about from inspiration to actually seeing it you can see it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble right now. Black Rose Writing as well. So how long did that take? What was that like?
So this manuscript actually took me faster than I had anticipated. My very first manuscript, which is sitting with my agent still, took me longer. And then this one, A Deadly Game, the first draft, which we all know is your rough draft, took me 9 weeks to get out of my head and onto the paper. I actually do
Mm.
handwrite. I feel a little more connected to the paper and a little more connected to the characters and the process. And I like the feel of the pen against the paper. It helps quiet my mind too. There's no distractions and I'm a little more focused. And the story really did just kind of pour out of me. Of course, not the final draft that is on the shelves today. So the first draft took me 9 weeks, and then I set it aside for a while, and then I do what's called the gut read. And I do that about 4 to 5 weeks. So it gives me emotional distance from the work because
Also, you
you're,
wait. And,
yeah, I do, because
mhm.
I'm so in the thick of it that I can't see the big picture. And I don't know about you as a writer, but oftentimes through the process, I feel like, this is horrible and it's awful writing.
What
And
am I
so
doing?
I get, yeah, what am I doing? And I can't remember what I wrote. And so I just like to take that break from it. And then I'm able to look at it with clarity. So I did that, and then I read through it, and then I start the revision process. And because the first draft comes out of me so quickly, that takes me a little longer to do revising. And I probably
Mhm.
spent about equal amount of time on my first round of revisions. And after I did that, I reread it, and the ending, I still did not like the ending at all. And I was like, it felt too obvious to me. And I didn't know if it was too obvious because I knew the story or if it was just that obvious. And so I was very stressed. And for 24 hours, I mean, literally nonstop through the night, I just kept thinking, how can I fix this? How can I fix this? And I didn't want to create a whole new character in the book. And so I was trying to tie in someone else. And I was taking a shower, and all of a sudden it was the aha moment. And I was like, oh, I know who, and I know what, and I know how. And so then I had to go through and do revisions again to plant those seeds. And that took me about another 2 to 3 weeks. And then I gave it to beta readers, and then I get their feedback and I incorporate that again. So, all in, from inspiration to the time it was ready to go on submission, is probably about 9 months all in.
Um, yeah, that sounds about right. I'm usually about 9 to 12 months. And but it's, it is a process. Fortunately, I was just talking to a fellow writer today, Kathy Giorgio, and she's a very prolific writer, and she's also a coach and a
Mhm.
writing coach, and she teaches and stuff. And I said, if we didn't love rewriting, we would just be the most
Yes.
miserable writers ever because
Yes.
rewriting is so critical, both your own critical eye and then your beta readers. And yeah, so rewriting is like the heart and soul of our work.
You have to be, I can't remember who said the quote, but you can be a good writer, but you have to be a great rewriter.
Great rewriter. I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. Yes. So tell us about what's the premise of the book?
So basically, a college student goes missing, and the mother, she's a stay-at-home mother. Her name is Nicole, and she just is very compassionate and empathetic. And once she sees on the news that a student has gone missing, she feels the need to kind of help with the case. You see the volunteers out there, and so she kind of gets involved. And along the way, her son becomes a person of interest, and that completely flips her world upside down. But while she is still on the volunteer team, she finds a couple things in the woods that kind of incriminate her son a little bit more. She kind of hinders and tampers, pushing the limits, which surprises herself. And she notices along the way that she's being followed, and that leads to a whole nother world of problems for her. That's kind of just opens a can of worms. And so her world is completely flipped upside down between everything being connected the way that it is. And without giving too much away,
Yeah.
she's flipped upside down, and things are not what she thought, and people are not who she thought. And she mostly believes her son. It's this really precarious situation she's put in, because it is her son and she wants to believe him 100%, but he has an incident in his past that was very questionable. And so
Mhm.
she rethinks about that and says, well, what really happened then? Could he really be involved now? And so she's stuck in this position of, do I believe my son? Do I not believe my son? And how far am I willing to go to protect him? Am I willing
Protect
to
him.
put, right? Am I willing to put myself in legal danger, in harm's way? How far are you willing to go to do that?
Yeah, that sounds so cool. So, what do you like about Nicole?
So I like her fierceness of her unconditional love. I didn't understand what parent love was really like until I had my own children. And it is a love like no other. I mean, you really are willing to die on the stake for your children, basically, but you say that, but then you think, but how far are you willing to go? Would I be willing to go to jail for my child? Part of me says yes, part of me says no. I don't
Mhm.
know. And please, I hope I'm never in that situation to have to
Yes.
find out.
Yeah. And what are some of, our characters always have, the dual-edged sword. They've got wonderful qualities that we admire. What do you don't admire about Nicole?
She is maybe a little too protective. Some people who read the book might say she is very much a helicopter parent. not letting her college age son spread his wings. She's still a little too much into his business. She tries not to be, but she can't help herself. And I think she is not worldly enough. She's very isolated.
Mm, yeah. Where's it set? What's the
So
setting?
it is a fictitious college town, but my imagery of where I imagined it to be is somewhere in like the South Carolina region.
Cool. It's so much fun when we can make up our own settings, you know?
Yes, yes.
It's always a it's always a fun thing to do. So are you working on anything now?
I am actually. I just started my gut read for my fourth manuscript, and I will begin revising that next week. This one is so I kind of genre hop when I read, and now I'm genre hopping in my writing. I love thriller and I love suspense, but I also like comedy. And so I was trying to find a way to merge the two. And then I came across El Casamano's series, Finlay Donovan. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they're the perfect marriage of suspense, thriller, action packed, but a lot of comedy in there too. And when I first read her first book, I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I've been trying to do. And so I am now creating a series based on a former teacher who is now turned a professional bridesmaid. Yes, that's actually a job. And if you're really good at it, you have the potential to earn up to $150,000 a year being a professional bridesmaid.
Wow.
So, yeah, so there's some comedy involved, but there's always something that's going to go wrong at a wedding. And Avery, her name is Avery Montgomery, and she will solve what's going on. And she tries to do it without the bride knowing. So this first book takes place in Las Vegas.
Very cool. It sounds wonderful. I like genre hopping too. I've written a thriller, I've written two family suspense novels and written a historical novel. And now I am trying historical, present day, thriller, romance.
Yeah, see, you're trying to marry them all together because
I am,
you
and I'm
like a
having a
little
good
bit of each
time.
one. Yeah, I mean, if you really like a little bit of each one, it's
Yeah.
creating our own new genre. But El Casamano really is the trailblazer for it. Janet Ivankovich with her Stephanie Plum series, very similar to that kind of tone
Yes.
too. So there are authors out there who are doing it, but it's a little harder to shelve it because it's like a mashup.
Yeah. So where does it go? And for you out there, where it goes on the shelf in the bookstore or where it goes under the way that Amazon and Barnes and Noble, describe it is not in our hands, unfortunately. We try. We
Right.
try. So
Exactly.
you've mentioned a number of writers that you like. Is there any author that really had a major impact on your life?
So I very much love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love her style of writing as well. And a lot of her books, too, have some suspense behind it. There's always some kind of mystery tying people together. And I love how she manages that. And then El Casamano, as I mentioned. I also love Mary Kay Andrews. A lot of her books are rom-commy, but again, with a little mystery, a little suspense going on. Something has to be figured out. So those are the ones that I really look to.
Good. And is there anything you've recently read that you could recommend to our audience?
So yes, of course, the Finlay Donovan series, I do love those. I actually just read a book called Anna Takes Manhattan by Lizette Dekos, and it was a rom-com, and it was a laugh out loud. She is like throwing caution to the wind, always been very guarded, and she's like, I'm not going to say no to any dating kind of thing, and what could possibly go wrong? And I was literally laughing out loud. So that was a really good book. And then I recently read a memoir, which is also outside my normal genre. And that one's called Leg. And it's by Greg Marshall. And basically, the premise behind that book is that He has a disability that no one ever told him about. His parents did not tell him he had this disability. And so he grew up never understanding why he was different from everybody else. And when he finds out the real reason, then it's coming to terms with everything. It was a really, really good book. He's become one of my heroes.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. So our audience is now totally into you. They're very much wanting to read your book. They want to find out more about you. So tell them how they can find you.
So anytime you want to visit my website, it's gaylebrownauthor.com, and that's GAYLEBROWN author.com. And then on my socials for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, I am at Gayle Brown Author on all of those.
Oh, is TikTok working for you?
So I'm kind of a newbie on it. Not super proficient at it yet. I've done a couple trailers and videos on it, but it's not my go-to. I've decided to just find one platform that I'm most comfortable on and really just focus on that one for a while. And so, I do the Instagram, and then Instagram automatically posts to my Facebook page. So I get the dual out of that. So mostly I'm on Instagram. I'd like to get more proficient at TikTok, but there's definitely a learning curve for me.
Yeah, me too. It's a big learning curve. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Gayle and I both thank you so much for being here. And I hope that you will follow her. You'll go to Instagram and you will follow her. You'll go to Facebook page and follow that as well. You'll go to her beautiful website and let her know that you're there. And I hope that you're already following me on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and those are the main ones.
I know
Twitter,
it's good.
X,
I know it's Twitter formerly X formerly Twitter. It's like,
formerly
why don't
known
we
as
still
like Prince.
right? Why don't we just call it Twitter? Because that's really what it is. On my website too, there's a place to sign up for my newsletter. So anyone who's interested in keeping up with what's going on in my writing world, and I also do some free giveaways through there. So if you like free things, sign up for my newsletter as well.
Sign up for her newsletter. That sounds good. Thank you again, and I'll see you next week in the next episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I hope you have an awesome week. Bye, everybody.